Subscribe because it's free.
Elias Carter sat in cold, unforgiving restraints, his wrists locked in alien metal. The Xantrax warriors surrounding him stood tall, their dark, chitinous armor gleaming on the dim light of the warship's prison hold. He could hear the low hum of the ship's engines, a reminder that he was deep in enemy territory, with no visible means of escape. Yet, despite the odds, a small smirk tugged at the corner of his lips. Commander Vaktal, the towering Xantrax officer in charge, loomed over him, his segmented eyes narrowing in disgust. A human? They sent a primitive to scout our sector? His voice, deep and laced with arrogance, echoed in the chamber. Elias didn't respond. He let his silence do the talking, watching as the aliens inspected him like a curious insect. They had already stripped him of his flight suit, leaving him in little more than his undershirt, cargo pants, and his belt, a simple, unassuming piece of fabric with a silver buckle. Another alien, a scientist with elongated limbs and cruelly curved fingers, waved a scanning device over him. No weapons detected. It confirmed, its voice a hollow mechanical drone. Vaktal let out a harsh laugh. Pathetic. Even your own species abandoned you. A scout ship? Alone? How desperate is your kind? Elias tilted his head slightly, locking eyes with the commander. You think I'm alone? The comment made the Xantrax hesitate for a fraction of a second before the arrogance returned. Spare me your human tricks. You will tell us everything about Earth's defenses, or you will die painfully. Two guards grabbed Elias and dragged him toward an adjoining corridor. He didn't resist. He let them manhandle him, making sure to keep his movements fluid, natural. Every step, every shift of his weight was controlled. The belt sat snugly around his waist. They had no idea. The interrogation chamber was sterile metallic and bathed in an eerie green glow. Restraints extended from the chair in the center of the room, binding Elias in place. The door sealed shut behind him with a sharp hiss. Vaktal stood before him, arms crossed, while a group of alien scientists activated a console. We have extracted information from stronger minds than yours, he sneered. Your brain will shatter under our psionic probe. A needle-thin device descended from the ceiling, its tip glowing faintly as it hummed with psychic energy. Elias felt the first tendrils of pressure against his mind, like cold fingers reaching in, searching, probing. He exhaled slowly. The Xantrax expected him to break. They had no idea what was coming. The pressure increased, digging deeper, trying to tear into his thoughts. His heartbeat remained steady. He focused on his breathing, on the weight of his belt against his waist, on the silent countdown running in his head. One of the scientists frowned. He's resisting. Vaktal scoffed. Impossible. No human has ever. Elias smiled. Maybe you should have checked the belt. Before the words could even register, his thumb pressed against a hidden trigger inside the buckle. A tiny, nearly imperceptible charge activated, releasing a pulse of electromagnetic disruption. The lights flickered. The psionic probe sparked violently. The aliens recoiled as static filled the air, disrupting their mental link. In the split second of confusion, the belt's hidden compartment released a micro-explosive, small, controlled, but powerful enough to snap the restraints binding him. Elias moved. His left hand shot forward, gripping the edge of the interrogation table as he lunged. His right hand slid along the belt's edge, activating a retractable energy blade. The first guard barely had time to react before the plasma edge sliced through his armor like paper. The room erupted into chaos. Alarms blared. Scientists scrambled away in terror as Vaktal roared in fury, reaching for his sidearm. Elias didn't give him the chance. A flick of his wrist sent a second charge flying, detonating at the commander's feet. The explosion sent him sprawling backward. Elias turned, his gaze sharp, calculating. His belt had one more trick left. Pressing another concealed switch, a sonic pulse emitted outward, scrambling the neural pathways of the remaining aliens. They staggered, clutching their heads as their psionic abilities short-circuited. He wasted no time. Grabbing a fallen alien's communicator, he keyed into their frequency. "This is Captain Elias Carter," he said, voice calm despite the storm raging around him. "Just a heads up, you really should have checked the belt." With that, he bolted toward the corridor, leaving only panic and destruction in his wake. The warship was no longer theirs. It was his battleground now. Alarm screamed through the corridors as Elias sprinted forward, his mind already 5 steps ahead. He had seconds before reinforcements arrived. His belt, once dismissed as nothing more than a strip of fabric, had just turned the Xantrax warship into a battlefield. Behind him, the interrogation chamber was a wreck. Smoke curled from shattered consoles, and the bodies of fallen guards twitched in the aftermath of the neural disruptor pulse. Vaktal was down but not dead. That was fine. Fear would do the rest of the work. Elias ducked into a side corridor, pressing himself against the wall. His fingers worked fast, twisting a dial on the belt's buckle. A concealed hollow cloak shimmered to life, blurring his outline, bending light around him. It wasn't full invisibility, but in the chaos, it was enough. The first wave of Xantrax warriors stormed past, their segmented armor clanking as they rushed toward the chamber. Their weapons glowed with lethal energy, but they weren't looking for a ghost. Elias exhaled. Step 1, break out. Step 2, cripple the ship. The warship's layout was burned into his memory from a moment he was dragged aboard. He knew where he needed to go. Engineering. Without its power core, the entire ship was nothing more than a floating tomb. He moved quickly, silently. His belt contained more than just weapons. A micro-interface module allowed him to skim across a control panel without triggering security, feeding the ship false data as he bypassed locked doors. Vaktal's voice snarled over the intercom. Human, you think you can escape? You are trapped on a warship surrounded by my warriors. Surrender, and I may let you die with dignity. Elias smirked. You should really stop making assumptions. He flicked a switch on the belt. The ship's internal sensors glitched, momentarily scrambling his biosignature. For the next minute, as far as the Xantrax were concerned, he didn't exist. It was enough time to reach engineering. The door slid open, revealing a cavernous space filled with pulsating conduits and a massive energy core encased in thick alloy plating. 2 engineers barely had time to react before Elias was on them. The first went down with a single, precise strike, his energy blade slashing through the thin armor at the base of its throat. The second tried to reach for an alarm, but Elias was faster. A micro dart, fired from his belt side compartment, embedded itself into the alien's neck. He collapsed instantly, unconscious. Elias moved to the control panel. He wasn't here to destroy the core, not yet. He needed the Xantrax to panic first. His fingers danced over controls, overriding safety protocols, initiating a slow core destabilization. Warning sirens blared throughout the ship. Vaktal's voice returned, this time tinged with unease. What have you done? Elias activated the ship-wide comm system. I just gave your ship a countdown. You might want to start running. Panic spread like wildfire. He could hear the distant shouts of Xantrax, crews scrambling for damage control. He wasn't done. Twisting the dial on his belt, Elias deployed its last major function, a controlled EMP pulse. Every powered weapon within 100 meters short-circuited instantly. The security doors slammed open as elite warriors stormed in, only to find their energy rifles dead in their hands. Elias grinned. Welcome to my battlefield. He launched forward. The first alien swung a clawed fist, but Elias was already inside his guard. A quick, brutal strike to the throat sent him reeling. The next went down as the energy blade found its mark. The rest hesitated. Good. Elias tapped the belt once more, activating a high-frequency distress beacon, one tuned to an Earth fleet patrolling just beyond enemy space. Backup was coming. The Xantrax just didn't know it yet. Vaktal's voice was no longer mocking. It was furious and afraid. You cannot win, human. Elias wiped blood from his cheek and stepped over the fallen warriors. He didn't need to win. He just needed to finish what he started. The ship trembled under Elias's feet as the energy core destabilization warning escalated from a distant alarm to a full-blown emergency. The once orderly corridors of the Xantrax warship were now filled with chaos. Shouting warriors, scrambling engineers, and officers barking conflicting orders. The panic was spreading, and Elias knew exactly how to use it. His belt had already bought him the edge. disabling weapons, scrambling sensors, and throwing the entire command structure into disarray. But this wasn't over. Not yet. Elias moved fast, keeping the shadows as he made his way toward the bridge. If he could take control of the ship's navigation, he wouldn't just escape. He'd turn the warship into a message, a warning to every alien empire that thought Earth was weak. A squad of heavily armored Xantrax warriors thundered down the corridor ahead, scanning every shadow with their backup melee weapons, vibroblades crackling with energy. They couldn't shoot, thanks to his EMP pulse, but they were still lethal in close combat. Elias exhaled, adjusted his stance, and reached for his belt. With a flick of his wrist, a compact flash charge ejected from the belt side compartment, landing at their feet. Boom! A blinding white light filled the corridor. The warriors roared in agony as their sensitive, multi-lens eyes overloaded with pain. Elias moved. He slipped between them like a ghost, using the chaos to snap the leader's arm backward, stealing his vibroblade in one fluid motion. The next warrior barely had time to react before Elias drove the weapon straight through his chest armor, twisting it to sever key tendons. The third warrior swung blindly, but Elias ducked, sidestepping before slamming an elbow into his throat. A quick follow-up strike sent him crumpling to the floor. 3 down. No wasted movement. No hesitation. Elias didn't wait to admire his work. He grabbed the fallen warrior's wrist computer and hacked into the ship's security grid. The bridge was 3 decks above, and the fastest way up was through the maintenance ducts. The warship's ventilation shafts were tight, but Elias moved through them with practiced efficiency. His belt's nano-grip lining allowed him to navigate the slick metal with ease, climbing upward as the ship continued to shake from the growing instability. Below, he heard Vaktal raging over the intercom. "Find him. Do not let this human reach the bridge. If we lose this ship to a single primitive, we will be disgraced for generations." Elias smirked. "Then I guess you're about to be disgraced." He reached the final access hatch, pressed a button on his belt, and activated its silent cutting tool. A thin beam of energy sliced through the locks. With one last deep breath, he pushed the hatch open and dropped directly onto the bridge. The command crew barely had time to react before Elias was already in motion. The first officer went down with a single, brutal strike to the temple. The second reached for a weapon, only for Elias to rip out a power conduit and use it as an impromptu garrote. The others hesitated, staring at the human who had single-handedly turned their warship into a disaster zone. Elias leveled a stolen sidearm at the remaining officers. "We're going to play a little game called You Listen and You Live. Sound good?" No one argued. Vaktal's image flickered to life on the main screen, his once arrogant expression twisted in rage. "Carter, I swear by the Xantrax High Command, you will suffer for this." Elias leaned against the captain's chair, tilting his head. "That's cute, but here's the thing. You're not the one in control anymore." With a quick series of keystrokes, Elias locked the warship's controls, rerouting full command access to the terminal at his belt. Vaktal's eyes widened as he realized what had just happened. What have you done?" Elias grinned. "I just hijacked your ship." The bridge fell into a stunned silence. Every Xantrax officer still standing stared at Elias with a mix of fear and disbelief. Their warship, a vessel of destruction feared across multiple star systems, had just been hijacked by a single human, armed with nothing but his belt. Elias settled into the captain's chair, tapping a few more commands into console. The ship's navigation controls locked in a new course, one that would take them straight toward an Earth-controlled sector. Vaktal's enraged face filled the screen again. "Carter, you cannot do this. Our fleet is nearby. They will hunt you down and..." Elias sighed. "You're not listening, Vaktal." He activated his belt's long-range transmission relay, broadcasting to every ship in the area. "This is Captain Elias Carter. If you're hearing this, congratulations. You just witnessed the most embarrassing moment in Xantrax history." He leaned forward, his voice turning razor-sharp. "Let this be a lesson. You underestimated humans. You thought we were weak. You thought I was unarmed." He lifted his belt slightly, showing the sleek, battle-worn buckle. "Next time, check for this." Across the bridge, The captured officers fidgeted, realizing just how bad their situation had become. They weren't just defeated, they were humiliated. Their leaders would never forgive them for allowing a human to take their flagship. Vaktal's voice was raw with fury. You think this will end here? The Xantrax do not forget. We do not forgive. We will. Elias cut the transmission mid-rant. Yeah, I've heard before. Now came the hard part. The escape. Elias checked the incoming fleet data. Vaktal hadn't been bluffing. A Xantrax reinforcement armada was closing in fast. Too fast. Even with control of the ship, there was no way he could hold off an entire fleet by himself. But that wasn't his plan. He activated his belt's final failsafe, a hidden overload trigger embedded within its inner lining. Instantly, a ship-wide command override engaged. The energy core, already destabilized from his earlier sabotage, began a rapid countdown to critical failure. The Xantrax officers paled in horror. Their warship was now a ticking bomb. Elias stood, rolling his shoulders. Well, I think that's my cue to leave. He pulled up the hangar controls, remotely opening the escape shuttle bay. Then, with one last smirk, he activated his belt's personal magnetic grapple, launching himself toward the exit as the ship trembled violently beneath him. Behind him, claxons blared. The Xantrax crew scrambled, trying desperately to shut down the impending explosion. They wouldn't make it. Elias landed smoothly inside the hangar, sprinting toward a sleek Xantrax scout vessel. He overrode its security systems in seconds, his belt's universal hacking module making quick work of the alien encryption. As the shuttle roared to life, the bridge crew's panicked voices filled the comms. The human is escaping. The core is reaching overload. We have to abandon ship. Elias chuckled, strapping in as the scout ship launched from the hangar. Through the viewport, he saw the Xantrax warship growing smaller in the distance, its hull cracking under the immense pressure of its failing energy core. The once mighty vessel, a terror of the galaxy, was now a glowing wreck on the verge of annihilation. The Earth fleet received his distress signal and was already en route. Reinforcements. He was home free. As the Xantrax warship finally detonated in a massive, fiery explosion, Elias leaned back in his seat, tapping his belt buckle with a smirk. Not bad for an unarmed human.